everyone. It's Lena Banks, certified financial planning professional and small business coach based here in Austin, Texas. Welcome back to your financial therapy for the week. Thanks, as always, for tuning in. Before we get started, I need to ask you if you've been enjoying the show, please like, subscribe, give us a review wherever you're listening or watching. I'd really appreciate that. So today's episode is going to be a quick one. I think that this is really one of the hardest things that I've seen clients struggle with, honestly. And so it sounds pretty simple, but I am going to challenge you all to really think this through this week as your task toward kind of setting your priorities, getting yourself on track financially. And that is, we're talking about getting to know your financial self. A lot of you guys know that one of the episodes one of the themes that I really love in this show is doing origin stories and talking to people about how they grew up with money, what lessons they learned over the course of time, what lessons they learned from their parents, and what they've carried through that has been helpful to them today, some things that maybe aren't so helpful to them. And I really think that it's an interesting conversation because so many of our financial decisions that we make as we get older as adults are based on beliefs, biases, and certain kind of emotional drivers that we may not have actually thought about. So we're going to get a little meta today and talk about getting to know your financial self. How do you deal with personal finances? So if you've been struggling with managing money, you want to take a good look at what's actually been holding you back from moving forward in your financial life. And so, in my time coaching, clients really have struggled to tell me what their financial goals are outside of a number. I want to be a millionaire. I want to be financially free. I want to own a big house. I want to be able to buy X, Y, and Z. And that is good information. It's important information to have, along with how risk averse someone is. Those are kind of the two tools that I can use as a financial planner to really help somebody develop a financial plan and prioritize what they need to as far as how they earn and spend money. But that doesn't really tell me a whole lot about their financial self. And it does take time and effort to kind of get to know yourself financially and what is actually driving some of the behaviors, because the secondary step to developing a financial plan is to be in compliance with said plan. And that is much harder than me handing you a piece of paper or a spreadsheet and saying, okay, here are your financial numbers, here are all your ratios, here's what we know about your finances, now go. Many people are going to struggle with that because they don't know what's actually driving their financial behaviors. And so getting to know your financial self is so important to actually being successful in compliance with the financial plan or the budget that you have developed or that has been developed for you by a financial advisor or a trusted financial partner. So, if you've been struggling, as I said, with managing money, to look at what's been holding you back, I can tell you from my years of coaching that usually it's one of two things. It's either that you're failing to embrace and speak the truth, develop your own priorities, or you're failing to set appropriate boundaries when it comes to protecting your budget, executing on your budget. So let's talk about the first thing, failing to embrace your financial priorities and speak the truth about them. There are what I like to call the 4 horsemen of personal finance. So it could be fear and denial, it could be guilt and shame, it could be obligation, it could be pride. And those are the 4 horsemen that really drive some of our emotional decision making. And if you're not telling the truth about what those things are in your life and how those things are actually affecting you, either to yourself or to the people that you're beholden to financially, or that impact your personal finances, your decision making, that can be a real driver of your struggle with personal finance and managing your money well. So getting to know your financial self involves actually asking you some questions. Is somebody going to fall apart if you tell them the truth about, you know what, I don't have that money for you. I don't have the ability to keep up with the Joneses the way that I'm feeling the expectation to. A good example is if you just lost your job or you've been in the same job for years without a raise. Instead of potentially telling yourself the truth or telling your financial partner the truth about that, you might want to kind of ignore it. Instead of making the game plan to save or make more money, supported by your financial partner and or your trusted financial advisor and fiduciary, hopefully, maybe you invest in some quick get-rich schemes, or you start online gambling, or you do some behaviors that you feel like are going to be a quick fix, including being untruthful to your partner about the fact that you no longer have that earning in power. You no longer have that income. Or maybe you give up altogether on adjusting your budget to eliminate things that you feel like your family deserves. So you're just kind of gonna deny the reality of your new situation. So understanding what is driving you to do such things and acknowledging that you're just not embracing the truth of your current financial situation is the number one reason why people really struggle with money. So getting to know your financial self would involve being radically truthful with yourself and anyone around you who contributes to these feelings that you might have of guilt, shame, obligation about your financial situation, so that you can course correct. It's very important to speak the problem before you can correct the problem, right? Okay, the other huge way that we kind of sabotage ourselves because we do not know our financial selves is to not set appropriate boundaries. And I say all the time, budgets are boundaries. So it does start with having some sort of roadmap available to you that you can set boundaries with. And if you have not done a budget and you don't know what your financial reality is, it then becomes really hard to set the boundary on what you can and can't do. So the second thing is, if you are not setting boundaries because you feel an obligation to do something for someone, and maybe you tell them the truth, I cannot do this for you. Maybe you know the truth of the situation, and maybe you're able to speak it to yourself or to them, but then you don't set the boundary of, you know what, and that means that I am not able to give you these funds. And that means I'm not able to go on that trip. And that means I'm not going to accept your invitation to go out for drinks because I have a budget. I need to stick to the budget. There's no reality where I can't do that and be financially healthy and well. So I need to set this boundary and I need you to respect it. So failing to tell ourselves or others the truth and failing to set boundaries based on that truth are the two biggest ways that I see people fail to know themselves financially and really trust themselves and what they do know about themselves financially. And therefore succeed financially. You really have to dig deep to see what your motivating factors are, why you might be uncomfortable telling truth, why you might be uncomfortable setting boundaries, but those are the two areas. And to go back to setting appropriate boundaries, a good example of that might be that your spouse has struggled with financial infidelity and they don't share their expenses with you. They've racked up tens of thousands of dollars in debt that you're both responsible for. But instead of taking steps to mitigate that, maybe by saying, you know what, we're going to need to take you off the credit cards. Or, you know what, every month, since we have in our budget that you're allowed to spend X number of dollars, we're going to just put that in cash for you, or we're going to put that in an account that is not expansive, so, you know, you can't overspend that budgeted amount, so that we don't have this problem happening, and it's not an issue that continuously causes pain and angst because we have put boundaries on that spending. And so, you know, some people have a problem actually speaking that problem. Okay, my spouse has a spending problem. They hide what they spend. And then some people have a problem cutting it off and saying, you know what, we need to set this boundary for ourselves and the sake of our personal finances. So that's what I'm talking about. It's failure to tell the truth, failure to set appropriate boundaries. And those things can really get you and keep you from really getting to know yourself financially and be truthful with who you are when it comes to personal finances, and can cause continuous struggles. So this episode has been getting to know your financial self, a quick and dirty one, but I hope that you take a moment to just kind of think about these two things. Where in your financial life are you failing to tell the truth to yourself or to your financial stakeholders? And or where in your financial life are you failing to set appropriate boundaries for yourself or your financial stakeholders? It's really important that you dig deep on where that's happening and why. Get to know your financial self. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week for another episode.